Good evening. On Strange But True, we've interviewed people with the most bizarre stories to tell. But tonight, we talk to a group who say they've experienced something which defies belief. Alien abduction. Why do so many people risk ridicule by claiming they've been kidnapped and taken aboard a flying saucer? And what would convince a Harvard professor of psychiatry to conclude the accounts of alien abduction that I have dealt with are not dreams, not hallucination, but real experiences? Tonight, Strange But True looks at what are known as close encounters of the fourth kind.
I didn't imagine them. They were definitely there.
We know what we've seen. Whether people believe it or not, it doesn't really matter.
Why me? Or why anybody?
It's been a wonderful experience and it's changed my life.
The idea of aliens coming to Earth is as old as myth itself. Legends about invasions from the sky pepper history and folklore. Invaders from outer space were among the first themes of the burgeoning film industry. The B-movies of the 40s and 50s made the subject a cult genre.
The Martians! The ghost!
Today, aliens are still big business for the movie moguls.
That's what I call a close encounter.
But the idea that aliens were really visiting us was set in stone by the story of Barney and Betty Hill, an American couple who reported sighting a UFO in 1961. Under hypnosis, they told a story of abduction by aliens, a tour of a spaceship, and a medical examination by the creatures. Barney and Betty went public in 1964, and the world...
Oh, what a beautiful night.
It's so peaceful.
We were camping in Dorset. It's September, and usually in September there's not much to do in the evenings. They close in pretty quick.
Should we have an early night?
Why not?
Gone to bed fairly early, but I got up halfway through the night.
Sorry, love. I'm just going to the loo.
What time is it?
It's 5 to 3. You go back to sleep.
I noticed lights shining in the field to my right. They were just like orange gold balls of they weren't flames, they were just a solid shape, but a golden orange colour.
Pam. Pam. Come and have a look at this.
We just stood outside the tent. It was quite a bright night. The moon was out and there was no clouds or anything. There wasn't any noise. There was nothing at all. There was no sounds. You were just being transfixed to these golden lights, these balls. And everything was done very calmly and very slowly.
And I can remember one of the strange bits was that I was very, very happy. We could only stood there probably about 2 minutes looking at them.
I'm going to get my camera.
I don't know really what happened then. I was in the tent and he suddenly appeared.
They're gone now.
Pamela, a smoker, then noticed a pile of cigarette ends at her feet that hadn't been there before. Unaccountably, 3 hours had passed.
What time is it?
20 to 6.
We couldn't work out where this time had gone to. It was all very strange, because we didn't really even discuss this. We just said, well, we better go to bed, otherwise we won't get any sleep.
Nice cup of tea.
But the next morning, James and Pamela discussed their experience.
Thanks. We didn't imagine all that last night, did we? I mean, we really did see the lights.
Yes.
It wasn't a dream.
But it couldn't have been a dream. I mean, we both saw it.
James believed he'd gone through the most extraordinary events of his life during those 3 missing hours.
The recollection I had was being in a circular room, and you could vaguely make out like a white bench. It was all white and like translucent light coming through from behind plastic. And there was these figures in white, and they were dressed like a Ku Klux Klan in a pointed white robe. Like just a white area from top to bottom, but you could tell they were some sort of something that could walk about. I couldn't feel as I was laying on anything, but what it was felt quite cool or cold, and I was looking to my left. So I wasn't upset, I wasn't frightened. If anything, I feel it's had beneficial consequences.
I feel that there'd been an experience that maybe it's made our lives more enriched, I don't know.
So, victims of space kidnappers, or is there a more earthly explanation? Clinical psychologist David Lewis is an expert on sleep and dreams. Could the Millans possibly have had the same dream?
If you have 2 people who live together, who share a lot of experiences, there's no reason why their dreams shouldn't follow very similar patterns.
There was no dreams, no imagination. We definitely know that it happened.
Alien abductions, I think, have got a lot to do with false awakenings and with other aspects of the altered state we get during a state of sleep or a state of meditation or deep relaxation.
We know what we've seen. Whether people believe it or not, it doesn't really matter.
The vast majority of these people really do believe in their experience. They really do think they've been abducted and experiments have been carried out on them and all this sort of thing. And their memories are so vivid, so real, that they don't see how they could be actually anything that a reflection of real experience. But they're not. They are a creation of their imaginations. They are a creation of their fantasy. They are a creation of their minds. They have got nothing to do with a real life experience. It's just that they seem so real.
But dreams can't be offered as an explanation for what beautician Linda Jones says happened when she and her family went for an early evening stroll.
It was a summer's evening. We were walking along and I had this wildflower book with me. And I was getting the children interested and asking them, sort of playing a little game really, see what that one's called, see if you can identify it, you know, that flower. And then my daughter said,
Mum, look! The moon is coming towards us!
We looked up and we saw this sort of rugby ball shape, which was just hurtling towards us at an angle. We sort of crouched in the long grass quickly to avoid it, because our first thought being it was an aircraft on fire. I thought, oh, goodness me, my life flashed in front of me when I saw this thing. My daughter was absolutely terrified. We then ran up the hill to see what was going on. And we saw this object, which was shaped like a crescent moon.
Oh my God.
It was physical. It was a physical object. I felt like I could have gone up and touched it. I felt myself sort of drawn to it. Well, really, I just wanted to have a closer look. Probably curiosity. And I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was like a bad dream, like a nightmare.
Mum! Mum, come back! Mum, what are you doing? Come back!
It was like time had stood still.
Mum, what are you doing? Come back!
And I don't actually remember going right up close to it. I got as close as I can, but it seemed to burn my face, that the light was too bright.
Mum! Mum, come back! Mum, come back! Mum, what are you doing? Come back!
I have never seen anything like that in my life before that day, and have never seen anything since. We didn't look back. We just ran down the hill, and we ran as fast as we could.
Terrified, the 3 ran straight home. When they got there, they discovered that an hour and a half could not be accounted for.
I came home from work and the house was empty. Shortly after, my wife, a daughter and son arrived, and they were very, very excited.
Dad, come look at the big bar in the sky.
They asked me what I thought they'd seen, and I took a wild guess and said a spaceship. And they replied, have you seen it also?
8 o'clock in traffic news. Yet another lorry overturned...
Stranger things were to happen the next morning.
Do you want some toast and coffee, love?
What the hell's that on your face?
What?
Round my wife's eyes was all red, like it had been scorched, quite badly.
And they were all burnt and scaly just underneath and on the lids. Well, it wasn't really very sunny. In fact, it was fairly sort of overcast that weekend. So it wasn't due to sunbathing or anything like that. It was just very, very weird.
There'll be no questions until I'm completely sure that you're perfectly relaxed and perfectly comfortable. So I don't want you to think that there's any sort of hurry.
Linda decided to see a hypnotist in a bid to discover what had happened during the last hour and a half.
And how will you actually hypnotize me? What happens? I can't actually remember the regression or anything about the regression.
But Linda's session was recorded by the hypnotist. The results shocked her.
What's happening?
I'm watching the lights. There's someone standing next to them in the field.
Then what?
I'm floating. I'm in a room. There are 3 of them around me. They're tall. They've all got black hair. Big almond-shaped eyes. They're wearing jumpsuits of some kind. All in one.
What are they doing?
Shining a light in my face. My legs feel so cold. Icy. I mean, I really can't believe it. It's so hard to take on board that sort of thing. I mean, I'm just a very ordinary, normal, down-to-earth human being. I definitely wasn't into that sort of thing. I didn't like anything about science fiction. I've never been interested in that sort of thing at all. So, I mean, the answer was, why me? Why us on that day?
UFO investigators use hypnosis to discover what has happened to people who have lost time. But does it provide an answer?
A person under hypnosis, in the very deepest form of hypnosis, in a hypnotic state which would allow you to amputate their leg, for example, would be able to lie, if they wish to, just as well as we can now. The hypnosis in no way acts as a truth serum.
But accepting these witnesses believe their stories to be true, could there be another explanation? Dr. Sue Blackmore spent 20 years studying the paranormal. She says there could be several explanations. One simply involves how the brain works.
I think abductees may be people who have particularly unstable temporal lobes. Now, everybody's somewhere on the continuum from very stable to very unstable. That means they're either hardly firing at all in this part of the brain or lots and lots of nerve firing. When there's a lot of stimulation in the temporal lobe, a lot of brain activity going on here, it's known from all kinds of studies that you get things like floating, flying sensations, out-of-body experiences, feelings of presence, that there's somebody there, feelings of being manipulated.
Now, some of these, what we call OBEs, or out-of-body experiences, and this is where the person imagines that they're actually beyond their physical body. Maybe they're floating up towards the ceiling, or they're at a distance from the body. Sometimes they report being able to see their body.
They have these strange experiences, and they try to explain them. And one of the most frightening things is the thought that you're going mad. So that if someone else has also had a strange experience and can back you up, you can say, there you are, you see, I'm not going mad. It was really true. And I think That is what happens a lot of the time. Not that people are making it up, but that they're trying to fit the story together in such a way that it makes them feel better about it.
But how does that explain two people seeing the same thing in different places within a few hours? Two Northamptonshire women who'd never met claim this is what happened to them in 1978.
I left work in the Daventry Teachers' Centre to drive home. I saw a brilliant red light over one side of the road and a brilliant green light over the other. It was attached to something grey, and I thought it was an aircraft which was very low. But as I got nearer to it, I found that it was actually stationary. It was grey, smooth, plasticky looking, I thought. It was so smooth. I remember thinking that the traffic that was coming towards me would see it as I'd passed under it, but I didn't notice that anybody else was looking upward. That did register as being a little strange at the time. It was so perfect against this darkening sky, this dumbbell shape with these two bright lights underneath. I had no idea what this object was. I'd never seen anything like it at all. It wasn't an airship, it wasn't a helicopter, it wasn't an aeroplane. I felt no fear at all, just curiosity and strangeness that it was something the like of which I'd never seen before. I got in the car and drove further along the road. My car, which had been serviced that day, suddenly malfunctioned. I changed from second gear to third, but instead of going faster, the car was slowing down and had come to a stop. The light had disappeared completely. I couldn't see the road, the trees, the buildings. I could see absolutely nothing at all, not even the car I was sitting in. Suddenly there was a circle of brilliant white light, and then that light went out and darkness returned, and then circles of brilliant white light shone in a pattern on the ground from left to right in a semicircle, on and off and on and off and on and off. I looked through the windscreen to see if I could see anything above that they could have come from, but I couldn't. Everywhere was black.
The next thing Elsie knew was that she was driving towards home.
When I got home, the kitchen clock said 6:15, and my journey had taken half an hour. The following day, that journey took 15 minutes.
2 hours later, and just 4 miles from Elsie's home, Georgina Lowry was driving 3 friends to a Women's Institute meeting. Georgina has never told her story fully before, though she did report her sighting to her local paper, just as Elsie had done. Her description of what she saw that night matches Elsie's exactly.
Can you see these lights up here? Good gracious.
There was a white light shining straight down from the clouds into the trees. As this light was shining, then the car started faltering. And then the light was suddenly switched off, and we saw a red and green light. And this object, or whatever it was absolutely pacing the car. And then the 2 lights went out into one single white light, which then shot off at a speed that I've never seen before, and it wasn't a plane. There was no sound whatsoever. This was what was worrying.
When the story of the Northamptonshire UFO hit the papers, paranormal investigators asked Elsie to be hypnotized.
What's happening?
My head aches. There's a light, white light, coming towards me.
What can you see now?
There's a small creature coming towards me.
It was grey. It had rounded, curved lines around it, and there was the glow around it too. I just didn't know what they were at all.
Of abductions are widespread, both here and in the USA. It's a burgeoning industry. Countless articles, magazines and books are published on the subject every year. Could this information overload be responsible for the ever-increasing numbers of people claiming abduction?
When we look at alien abductions in terms of education or culture, we find that really throughout cultures, and indeed throughout many religions, there are stories which might be linked to aliens arriving, aliens doing things, aliens building the pyramids, aliens intervening in the acts of man. And of course the ancient Greek believed that the gods deliberately intervened in mankind's affairs on earth. So these are very widespread myths and ideas and stories.
To many observers, abductees are people who are easily deluded. But American doctors tested a number of them without knowing their extraordinary claims and found them to be of normal, indeed above average intelligence.
They are, in a sense, a distinct group in the fact that they perhaps have a very powerful imagination. They are able to vividly create images in their minds.
I think what's happening most of the time is that people genuinely have weird experiences that they don't understand, because we don't understand our brains, you know, the greatest mystery in the world.
But is it all to do with our brains? This book says not. It was written by John Mack, professor of psychiatry at Harvard University. He studied 100 abductees for 5 years and believes aliens are involved. He wrote, "What they experienced was real, not dreams, not hallucinations. These people's experiences suggest we're in a cosmos with beings far more intelligent than us and have the power to render us helpless for a purpose that we haven't yet begun to fathom."
I'm definitely not prone to imaginary things, and it was definitely not an optical illusion. I mean, I find it's pretty hard for one person maybe to have an optical illusion, but for 3 people at the same moment in time to have an optical illusion, I mean, the odds are pretty small on that, aren't they?
When people say to me that I dreamt it or I made it up, I give them a short, sharp answer and say, I was there, you weren't. You didn't see it, you didn't experience anything that I have experienced. I have experienced that, you haven't.
Science fiction writers have dreamed up storylines about aliens monitoring our airwaves and even picking up our television programs. If there is anyone out there, please join us again next week, and don't forget to put the cat out. Good night.